Hello, my dear friends. How are you doing? Hope you are having an amazing day and not having to deal with drama. Ready for new stories I have for you today? Let's go to the first one. And don't forget to listen to the end of the story, guys, to hear my insights. Enjoy the stories, and don't forget to like and subscribe. And of course, don't forget to leave a comment. Chris, my husband, 31. Rory, father-in-law. Sean, my nephew, 16. Tom, my brother, 35. I, 30 female, don't have a baby right now. About 2 years ago, I got pregnant and Chris and I told our families. Rory gave us a check for £1,000. He said he wanted us to use it to buy baby stuff while the kid was young, and whatever was left over should be saved for when our child turns 18 and then given to them. I miscarried shortly after, and we tried to give Rory the money back, but he asked if we were planning on trying again, to which we replied that we wouldn't be anytime soon, but someday definitely. He said keep the money, put it in a savings account, and keep adding to it for when we did have a baby. Chris and I tried to put in about £10 a week between us, which is doable for high school teachers. We missed a couple of weeks, but there's about £2,500 in there right now, and we've never taken out of it. In 2 years, the only people who have put money in this account are me, Chris, and Rory. Both myself and Chris have been to therapy, and we agreed to try again about 6 months ago, and I'm now pregnant again at 4 months. We told our families today, and Rory and my mother-in-law are both really happy for us, as are my parents. Tom, however, looked a bit sad. I asked if I could speak to him off to one side. In the conversation that ensued, Tom said that he had actually been hoping to ask me about the baby fund. Tom and his wife are both on living wage, meaning they earn slightly less than us, as they had Sean at the age where they would have gone to uni, so it's important to them that Sean gets to go. Sean is 16, but plans to go to uni in a couple of years. Tom and his wife are concerned that if Sean got a job to save up, it would affect his grades, and they don't have money to spare. So before Tom knew I was pregnant, he was basically hoping he could ask me to transfer the contents of the baby fund over to Sean and keep giving Sean the money that would otherwise go in the baby fund, as he worries Sean will not be able to afford uni otherwise. If I were to agree to this and keep doing it until he finished uni, I could restart the baby fund when the baby I'm currently carrying is about 5 years old. I told Tom I wasn't comfortable with that for several reasons. The main ones being that at most, a third of it is actually my money, that the money is meant for my baby, and that the money was also meant to be used when the baby was due to get baby stuff, which we'd struggle to afford otherwise on teachers' wages. I said I'd be willing to work something out, and that with the pregnancy, Chris is gradually taking on more housework. So maybe if Sean wanted to come over and do the garden or help with chores, I could pay him out of my money, not the baby fund. But Tom says that Sean can't be distracted from his studies. I said that while I love my nephew, I'm just not comfortable giving money meant for my child to Sean. Am I the a-hole? Edit. My family side with Tom, as the baby isn't born yet, and I have time to rebuild the fund. Chris and Rory side with me, and that the money, as far as they're concerned, is for their child or grandchild. But Rory also said, do what you think is best. Mother-in-law wants to keep the peace, but the initial money was just as much her idea as Rory's. Clarification. Rory has no relation to either Tom or Sean, and no one on my side of the family, other than me, has made any contribution to the baby fund. That money was intended for OP's child. OP should not let anyone make her feel bad for using it for her child. Even if she wasn't pregnant, I think it's an incredibly rude imposition to ask her to give Sean any of the baby fund. Tom and his wife need to work out supporting their own child, and if Sean needs to put uni off to save up to avoid working and studying, then so be it. It is not OP's responsibility to pay for her nephew, especially now that OP is pregnant and will be needing that money. And now let's hear the community's opinion. Not the a-hole. Your nephew is not your financial responsibility. Your child is. No, just no. What on earth? Do not give this money to Tom. I do not understand why he even dares to entertain the thought of asking you for it, considering the history tied with this money, miscarriage, and that it is yours. He had nothing to do with building these savings. It is not your responsibility to put Sean through uni. Not the a-hole. Not the a-hole. Perhaps Tom could get a second job to take care of his own responsibilities instead of mooching off someone else. What a rude, selfish thing to ask, for the love of God. I just cannot get over the sheer arrogance of this. If they had put aside $10 a week or whatever for the course of your nephew's life, this wouldn't be a concern. Poor planning on their part does not constitute an emergency on your part. Basically, they saw dollar signs and hoped you'd just be too sad to keep the money if you weren't pregnant. Update. Of all the things I was expecting to see in this thread, I didn't quite expect this. Still pregnant, about 7 months. My husband and I agreed to pay my nephew and niece to do some jobs for me around the house, and they've accumulated a chunk of cash each. Niece at 100 pounds-ish, nephew closer to 500 pounds. To check out when they go to university. Brother is none the wiser, and thanks to their efforts, the nursery is ready to go. Nephew has asked his parents to let him get a job, but still no luck. However, his college does these programs within school time, which pay, so he's applying for one of those. My mother outright wished that I lost this child because I was so selfish to not help out family. And my brother agreed and said that he would make sure to teach my child to take care of others, and they each made a Facebook post about it, which ended up with me getting a bunch of anonymous messages wishing sickness and death on me and my child. I got off social media, and I've not spoken with either my mother or brother in a couple months. Outside of that, I'm doing okay. Baby looks healthy, marriage going strong, and no one has wished death on me or my baby since I blocked my mother and brother. So stuff got wild for a second, but I think it's pretty much over. I, 18 female, have my high school graduation ceremony this Wednesday. It was sent to my parents in an email that I will be giving a speech that day as my grades made me valedictorian of my school's class of 2024, and I was excited to do so. My school made us reserve and buy tickets to the ceremony weeks in advance, and I picked mine up on the 26th. The problem started at dinner when I told my family I picked up the tickets for my graduation day and would keep them with me until the day of, just to make sure they don't get lost. My dad told me that he and my sister had plans for an hour before the ceremony, but that my mom would be there the whole time, and that they'd try to be there for the after party. I was honestly shocked for a moment, before starting to laugh, assuming they weren't serious. When I realized they actually weren't joking, I'll admit I was a bit mad. I'm usually a very shy and non-confrontational person, even around my family, but I started yelling at my dad and sister, asking if they were seriously ditching my graduation ceremony. I told them that the after-party was useless to attend, and that all the pictures of the graduates with their families would be taken at least 2 hours before the ceremony. They said it's fine, and we can take our own pictures the day after my graduation, but I got up and left dinner. Over the weekend, I saw a few people on my class group chat complain that they didn't get enough tickets. So I offered up the 2 tickets I had and met up with a girl from my class to give them to her, and even though I told her not to, she actually paid me the original price for them. When the topic of graduation was brought up by my dad today during lunch, I told him that I gave the other 2 tickets away and only my mom will be attending, so they shouldn't bother with the after party. He got mad and asked why I would do that, to which I replied that I don't see the point in wasting money on tickets if they're not going to use them. My dad blew up on me, saying I'm acting like a spoiled brat, and it's not like I'll die if he and my sister are a bit late to my graduation. I spoke to a few people about it, my friends and my grandma. My friends said good riddance, and if they consider their plans more important, they can have fun. But my grandma said that while she understands my side, I shouldn't have given away the tickets just to spite my dad, because maybe he would have changed his mind and gone on time. So I'm looking for a non-biased opinion. Am I the a-hole? OP's dad and sister have made it clear OP's achievements in her graduation is not a priority to them. Their little vacation is. Granny can go kick rocks and stop being so tacky. It's a formal event. It's incredibly rude to just swan in late, or to just not show up until the after party. It's incredibly rude that OP's dad and sis decided to plan stuff so close to the ceremony, and OP is not obligated to be nice about them choosing not to support her. And now let's hear the community's opinion. Info. What did your father and sister have to do that was more important than watching you graduate, and also give the valedictory speech? OP says, my dad told me that he and my sister booked a hotel towards the north of our country with a few of their friends because they wanted to have some huge sleepover. I don't know the full details. Parents didn't want to leave them alone, so they're all, with the exception of my mom, going with my sister and her friends. I guess they saw it as a vacation opportunity. Thank God your mom supports you. Not only graduation, but also being the valedictorian of your class? Great job. I'm saddened that your father and sister are not celebrating your great accomplishments with you. Just baffles me. I don't even know you, but I'm excited for you. You did the right thing. Not the a-hole, But your dad and sister are the a-hole. They have had 364 days to do their sleepover. Like, what the hell? Not the a-hole. You're learning young that people are who they are, and you should treat them accordingly. You're the valedictorian, and they actually said they had plans before your graduation, leading you to believe that they didn't think it was important enough for them to attend. And then you gave the tickets away, and they are upset? They are so wrong, just wrong. First of all, congratulations on passing and being valedictorian. Also, if your dad and sister planned a sleepover trip to the north, how would they be able to get back in time for your after party? They would never make it in time. So, not the a-hole, but your father and sister are. I take it graduation is a known date, so they actively planned this trip knowing when the graduation would be. My ex-wife, 33 female, and I, 34 male, finalized our divorce last year. Long story short, she was having an emotional affair with a guy at work. She's now in a relationship with him. We also have a co-parenting arrangement for our daughter, 14 female. My daughter is very close to her mom, and she even sided with her on her affair. For the first few months after the divorce, I tried to maintain a friendly relationship with my daughter. I gave her gifts. I never blamed her mom. I tried my best. But my daughter was always extremely cold with me. After a few months, she just straight up told me she liked her stepdad much more than me, and he was the man my ex-wife deserved as a husband, and the man she deserved as a father. I had no clue why she even said that to me, and that was the most painful thing anyone had ever said to me in my life. I broke down really bad that night, and took the next couple of days off work. After a couple of days, I decided that I wanted to emotionally and financially distance myself from my daughter, and that I would do the bare minimum possible and fulfill my legal and financial obligations till she was 18. All this time, my sister was the only one there to support me. I had no other family. My parents were long gone. My sister had gone through a similar thing a few years ago. Her husband had cheated on her. Luckily, she had no children, but that experience had devastated her so much that she said she wasn't going to date ever again because she had lost trust in all men. After I had made the decision to distance myself from my daughter, I started removing her as the primary beneficiary from all my financial accounts, my 401k, etc., and instead put my sister as the beneficiary. I started withdrawing from the college funds I had saved for my daughter and used it on myself and for my sister. This wasn't a one-way thing. My sister earns more than me, and over the past few months, I've received more gifts from her than I've received from my ex-wife in my entire life. We also went on a 2-week vacation to Europe. All in all, I've emotionally and financially distanced myself from my daughter, and am doing the absolute bare minimum possible. I have plans to never speak to her ever again after she turns 18. I just want to finish off my legal and financial obligations to her. My daughter has definitely noticed this change in my behavior, but she hasn't said anything yet. This sounds like her mom is poisoning her against OP. OP might want to talk to her one last time and tell her he is about to leave her alone for good if she continues to act this way. Kids say and do hurtful things, but you talk to them and work through it. OP needs to talk to her and find out where all this is coming from, and not go revenge on her for the things she said. And now let's hear the community's opinion. Info. This is impossible to judge. I'm always very wary of a story when a kid acts this way. Mom could have manipulated her, or you might not have had much of a relationship with her to begin with. I'm having a hard time picturing you two being close if she casts you off this easily. And it's weird how you say you gave her gifts, as one of your 2 examples of trying your best. And then you remove all financial ties, which seems very manipulative. But I'm not going to judge your whole circumstance by reading between the lines. That's not fair. I think you need to talk to an objective party like a therapist, not just for your mental health, but also to give you insight into whether your best was truly good. I think everyone here needs to talk to professionals. It isn't healthy, especially to a 14-year-old. Keep your door open just in case for the future. I sense some missing stairs. Kids with great dads don't randomly ditch that dad. It sounds like, whether you saw it or not, you were not a present and connected parent. You haven't been someone she feels safe with or relying on. Consider this. You wrote your daughter off completely after just a few months of bratty teen behavior. And she noticed. And she hasn't said anything. You did what she expected. And yes, it's an a-hole move to cut a literal child off so quickly. But again, you did what she expected. I've, 42 male, Been with my fiancée Jane, 32 female, for nearly 2 years. We met when she was still living with her ex-husband, mid-30s, while he saved up to move out. They have a 7-year-old son. Her ex, Ben, has never liked me, especially after I proposed within a week of their divorce being finalized. He didn't acknowledge my presence when we're in the same room together, and we've never spoken. Jane initiated the separation as she realized she was no longer in love with Ben. The divorce was amicable, and they've remained friends and share custody of their son. As far as I know, Ben hasn't dated anyone since they split. I have a 14-year-old daughter from my previous marriage. Jane recently told me that Ben has invited her to go on holiday with him and their son this summer. It's 10 days at an all-inclusive resort in Greece. Apparently, he's booked a suite so they'll have separate bedrooms, and all she has to pay for is her flights. Jane thinks it would be nice for their son to spend some time with his mom and dad after a couple of years going between two houses. I think it will just confuse him. I asked if my daughter and I were invited, and she actually laughed. That led to an argument and me saying that Ben was clearly still in love with her, and that this was completely inappropriate. She said he's not in love with her, and she's certainly not in love with him, and that at the end of the day, their son comes first, and this will be good for him. I said if she goes, then it's over between us. She burst into tears, said, "What the hell?" and left. We don't live together yet, so we didn't see or speak to each other for 2 days. Eventually, Jane texted me that she'd told Ben she wasn't going on the trip. I called her and we made up, but ever since, it's been very obvious she's pissed at me. I feel a bit bad for how abrupt I was, but at the same time, I think it's ridiculous she would even consider going on holiday with Ben. You dated a married woman who was still living with her husband. You proposed to someone a week after their divorce was final, so they had no time to process what was happening, no time to figure out who they are, no time to get to know you, and possibly decide you weren't the one for them. Dude, you proposed to a woman during one of the most uncertain and vulnerable times of her life. What is happening now is an extension of that. This is what it looks like when people don't take the time or aren't given the time to process big changes. I'm all for being friends with exes, and I'm absolutely supportive of good co-parenting. If you and your daughter had been invited, I'd be on board. But the scenario that was planned, oh hell no. And I don't think you were wrong to say so. I would not mess with a woman still living with her ex and propose a week after the ink dries. You have low standards and a bad picker.